Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Shanika Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. Hi. If the weather is any indication, the spring weather of it being hot, then cold, is any indication, then this is a season of dichotomy. I am Dr. Shanika. I am your host here at The Black Doctor, and I want to talk to you about the theme of the season, which seems to be dichotomies, right? I've talked about wanting to be ambitious while also wanting to really just be a lady of leisure. I've talked about wanting to be a trustworthy doctor in a system that inherently builds distrust. And this week, I'm going to talk to you about something about like job searching and something that's pretty common, I find, in people who are working, just working people individual, right? This concept that what you want either doesn't exist, right? You want something, but you're never going to find it. Or when you do find it and it's not, or you find something that's similar, like something that allows you to have like great childcare or ample vacation time, but it has a lot of cons, you'll convince yourself to stay because you have decided that it doesn't exist anywhere else and that you have to sacrifice for it. I find that like our brains are very messy places. And so I'm going to just walk through, the tricks that your brain commonly plays on you that keeps you stuck in jobs, roles that you don't really want to be in. And I'm explaining this because this emotion, this fear will keep you stuck or keep you spinning. And it is your brain's attempt at keeping you safe, except it's keeping you in a place that is probably harmful to you. So, okay, let's start with being in a job that maybe checks some of your boxes. You're in a job, like my current role, I give myself an example. The pros of this job currently, right, is that I have a lot of decision-making power. The schedule is not overbooked, right? We're seeing 40-minute well visits, 20-minute sick visits, like lots of time to connect with patients, to do patient education. Okay, very good. I work part-time. I only have to go in 2 days a week and I do a third remote without patient care, right? So lots of time for my additional business, lots of time for my family, for my hobbies. So, and if you're listening to the podcast, I'm pointing at the plants behind me. You should watch it on YouTube if you're listening to the podcast. But anyway, there are so many perks, right? But there are so many cons, and the cons are conning. But my brain wants to be like, and has been like probably for the last year, even though I've seen that a lot of things are not working for me and a lot of things are creating unnecessary stress for me, my brain, specifically my amygdala, because y'all know Amy is in here somewhere, wants to play it safe, right? And her version of safe is staying put, because where else am I going to find the perks that I have here? This freedom of part-time scheduling with a ample patient visit, because that's just not the status quo of medicine right now. Our amygdala is key for fight or flight or freeze, right? And so I think for a while I have been in fight. I've oscillated between fight and freeze. And that is that feeling of like, I am not going to be able to get this setup somewhere else, even though I created this setup and found it. Like I found it. I did it by a cold search, cold email to a clinic I never worked at before. and then told them what I wanted, created the schedule I have now. I've edited it a few times, right? Like I literally created where I am today, but my brain is saying things like, this is a fluke, right? This is not the status quo. So there's this uncertainty that has arisen that makes me want to figure out how to make this work, how to ride it out, because there are benefits here that I have had a hard time finding in other places. Okay. My hair is doing such weird things. Anyway, so here's the next part of it. Here's actually the deeper underlying part of it. We all have a series of emotions that flash through us that are created by things that we already believe, right? So, most people I know, including myself, have deep-seated fear of inadequacy, right? Who am I to ask for the things that I ask for? Do I deserve these things? Do I deserve this life? Do I deserve this type of freedom? Especially when it isn't the norm. It's very easy to convince ourselves that we are worthy of things that are status quo, right? Or things that everyone else feels like we should have, even when we don't have them. So things that are like injustices, we are like up in arms and believe we should have it even when we don't, because that itself is the status quo, is to feel that we are deserving. But it is a little bit harder when the culture, especially in America, is that you have to work really hard, that you have to earn your dues, that work is suffering, that it's hard to make money, that, there is no such thing as work-life balance. When all of these things are the norm, it is very hard to convince yourself to seek something else. And it's also hard to convince yourself that you, of all the people who don't have it, are the person that deserves to have it. That feeling of inadequacy will squash all of your ambition, all of your ability to move into something else. I'm going to give you another example. I have a friend, not a doctor, who is in also a career-based field, like very successful career-based field, and is really unhappy at her job. And the bonus, though, is that she can like work from home. She can, she has enough time to spend with her kids. Like, she doesn't have to find alternate forms of childcare. And so she oscillates between gratitude of this experience that allows her this much flexibility because her kids are young, and just frustration and grief and trauma of this role, right? Being a sole Black woman in a role that was not meant for her, where she's constantly scrutinized and under a microscope. And you can see how her amygdala is playing this out, right? Like, I should be grateful that I even have this time to spend with my children. But also, I'm so tired of being treated horribly in this workplace. And the amount of trauma that we face, right, when we stay in these jobs that ain't shit, that are treating us horribly, becomes stressful, right? It takes tolls on our body. We get weathered. It's like just over time, it really wears you down. And the reason we're staying is because we don't know for sure that we will be able to find what we have somewhere else. And we're not willing to sacrifice that thing. However, there's always a however. You can be grateful and want something else. It is not ungrateful to want a scenario where you are happy and where you feel safe. And you have to remind yourself of that constantly. You also have to remind yourself that what you want exists. It doesn't exist everywhere, but it exists somewhere. And you just have to look for it, or you have to create it. And you have to write it down, because your brain is very good at cataloging all the negative things that have ever happened to you, all the experiences that you've been through that are horrible, and all the proof that what you're going through is kind of the norm and everybody has that struggle. Like your brain is really, really good at remembering the negative things. It has a much harder time remembering the good things and even how you created it. And if you're not cognizant about documenting the process of how you created something, you will think it's a fluke. You will think that it's a one-time event. But if you really look at the pattern of things, I'm sure you will find the case that you have been able to create more than once a positive outcome for yourself. I have in multiple jobs been able to create part-time schedules. In fact, I have no qualms now about asking for part-time. I do not work full-time. I've had too many jobs at this point working part-time that have worked for me to know that it exists, right? Because you have to just keep doing it. You have to keep pushing yourself to never go back to the thing that feels like the norm, especially when it doesn't work for you. So my current battle is to remind my brain, remind myself that I'm the one who created even this job opportunity. I'm the one who created the role I'm even in right now. I'm the one who created my schedule. And it wasn't a fluke. And it wasn't because the owners are just simply disorganized and didn't notice, right? Like these positions exist. Wanting to serve your patients well, there are practices who do that. You don't always have to sacrifice your entire life to do that. There are plenty of doctors who do that. And how do I do that? How do I remind myself? I think about my own stories. I look for examples of where this has existed in my life already. I also look at other people because if you don't have this experience for yourself, this is where community comes in. This is where having a network comes in. This is where you need to talk to people to see if what you desire is possible. It also requires you to identify that feeling of inadequacy and exposure. Like my friend, for example, has a network, right? She has a mentor who's maybe at a different practice or, like she's not a doctor, but at a different workplace who knows exactly her experience, another Black woman. And she's thinking about applying to that place, like sending over her resume and like she has to kind of overcome her feelings that like maybe they will find that she's not good enough. Maybe they will reject her, right? Because that is the fear that we all carry that prevents us from moving to another place is this idea that maybe someone else will not find us valuable and will not accept us. And so why not stay where we are accepted, even if it means being mistreated? So there are a few hurdles that you have to consciously decide they are not going to hold you back and they are not going to block you and that you're going to try anyway. Because think about what's on the other side. If you sit in the space of like, this is why I'm here. I know it's horrible, but what if, what if, all the bad things. But if you sit and think about what if, all the good things, that too is an exercise in belief. If I sit down and I'm like, what if I find, and I start to list out all the things that I really, really, really want in a job, right? Like I want to be respected. I want my opinion to be valued. I want a leadership team that really supports me, that communicates well, that respects my autonomy, that also still allows me to practice part-time, believes in good quality care, believes in vaccines and evidence-based science, allows me to operate based on my firmly rooted belief in evidence-based science, right? Like that makes me feel comfortable for the hours that I'm at work. We don't have to be friends, but like, can we at least be cordial and communicative and respectful, right? When I think about that and how it would be a joy to go to work in those environments, how it would be a relief. I don't have to think about office politics. I can just think about patient care. That doesn't even seem that far-fetched. Like those things seem completely reasonable, actually. Just because they're not common doesn't mean they don't exist. And then I think about, okay, if I have all that, and this is what I want you to think of. If I am able to find the exact thing that I want with my little list, it's not even a long list, right? and I'm well paid and I have all this freedom and flexibility. If I'm able to find that, what would it do for my life? What would it do for my body, my health, right? The lack of stress, the lack of being weathered on a daily basis. How would I show up in other spaces? How would I interact with my family, with my significant other? Because stress makes you not always a great person, right? Sometimes you are frazzled, sometimes you are irritated, right? It makes you very irritable. It makes me very irritable, makes you anxious. And then you are showing up completely differently outside of work because you have all of these feelings, these unresolved and negative emotions that are just stirring in your body. Think about how much better your quality of life will be once you get these things, right? My brain does a judgy thing. It loves to judge. And when I have moved from worse to good, when I'm in good, I'm like, damn, why did I take so long? What? See, this is exactly what it was. But you have to acknowledge that the time is the time. Like it was the right time to do the thing that you needed to do. And you had to become the person that makes the change in order to make the change, right? Like the timing is the timing. So don't pile on that like, oh, I should have left a lot sooner. I can't believe I stayed so long. There's that judgment. Then there's also the judgment of like, I got myself into it. So am I going to be able to judge a new environment safely? Like, our brain is so complex, right? All of these things are at play, making us stay or making us spin, making us doubt, making us feel more negative emotions. And so we push it aside and we keep trudging forward in the land of the known trauma instead of branching out because we're worried about unknown trauma and not unknown joy. So, this week's exercise is for you to think about, like, you have to kind of learn to listen to your body, but really think about without the doubt. Like, hear Amy, she's going to have questions, but put down the questions for a side. Like, what if, who am I, how can I, who, what, where, what, like, none of those. Put that aside and say, if I could have everything I wanted, what would it look like? And allow yourself to have that excitement. Allow yourself to feel the joy of that moment, having everything, of picturing that, and then thinking about how that ricochets. Is that the word? Ricochet is not the right word. It's like the outward ripple effect of having joy in your career, in your job, in your relationship, in your home. How that impacts all the other areas, like how they're all intertwined and how that means you're going to experience the rest of your life, the other areas of your life. And really sit in that emotion because that is what we are always hoping for. That is the feeling we are looking for when we want to go from the struggle to arriving at a destination. That feeling of joy and excitement and pleasure, right? But also like calm. It shouldn't be like so exciting, right? Like when you have what you want and you're really at peace, peace is the word, like peacefulness, joy. That's what you're seeking. So if you are in a position right now where it is not what you wanted it to be, it's not what you thought it was going to be when you signed up for that job, because no one willingly signs up for misery, right? It's not what you thought it was going to be, or things have changed, the leadership has changed, the role has changed, the pay structure has changed, and it is not where you need it to be. I want you to think about how you can create something else by building evidence of how you've already created positive things in your life. And then I want you to think of examples of what that positive change would mean for the rest of your life. And that is how you're going to shift out of the spinning and out of the stuck place. Because you're not actually stuck. Everything in your life is just a series of choices. You could literally choose to do anything, to go in any direction. You could literally choose to shut everything down, pack up your life, and go on a sabbatical. You could choose to go, you could eat, pray, love your way through something, right? You could choose differently. It's up to you. What's your choice going to be this week? I'm curious to hear what it is. Please share in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have a great week. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.